girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And real quick housekeeping note, if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble or BitChute or Odyssey, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever podcast platform you utilize, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And we're also on the socials. Hit us up on Instagram and Facebook and the TikToks and all that good stuff, so I can continue to bring you conversations like the one I'm bringing you today. I'm catching up with my good friend, Mrs. Mary Mosteller of the Taylor Foundation. What's going on, Mary?
You are, Bill, as always. Honored to be here.
Good to have you. I know we talked about this like probably from day one, but just haven't got around to it. But now is the perfect time, I guess everything happens when it's supposed to. So here we are today catching up. To spread some good cheer in this holiday season. And I know you are very good with the good cheer and the high fives and the great hugs and all that stuff. So
that's what brought us together, right?
Exactly. And we're going to get into all that stuff. But usually when I have somebody on for the first time, I want to get a quick background. So do you remember originally what you wanted to be when you grew up?
It's funny. I think I definitely wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be an actress because I got some BS, I guess. But I'll never forget being in elementary school, and I went to Catholic school, and I told them I wanted to join the Peace Corps. And the teacher looked at me and said, "Don't go into Peace Corps. There's no money in that." But I think I've always had that nonprofit heart, which I've followed and has brought me with the Taylor Foundation to this day. But I've always wanted to make a difference in the world. I know that.
Oh, nice. And then like what, as a kid, obviously, where you're at today, kind of, music coincides. But when you were a kid and first started listening to music, who were some of your early faves?
This is a judgment-free podcast, right?
Yes, okay.
It is. So I think when you're a kid, you're at the mercy of your parents, right? What do your parents listen to? So, I grew up in late 70s, early 80s. It was Bob Dylan, Rolling Stones, Rod Stewart, Simon and Garfunkel. Like that's what was always in my house. I know my first cassette was Michael Jackson Thriller. There was always MTV playing, always some kind of music for sure. But definitely was not a big metalhead, which is ironic to where we are today. For sure. Which also keeps me at the booth working, right? Because then I'm not trying to go get to all the stages.
Exactly. And then, talk a little bit about, the journey to get where you're at. Like you said in Catholic school, you thought about the Peace Corps and they advised you there's no money in that. So then when did you wanted to get into the nonprofit world, and what was some of the steps you took to get here?
Yeah, great question. Like I said, I've always been interested in nonprofit work. I've always kind of volunteered, whether it's helping with elderly or Habitat for Humanity doing homes. Like I've always just wanted to be a helper. My grandma always said, if you can't find a helper, be a helper, right? I actually went to college for journalism. I think I'm 47. I still don't really know what I want to do with my life, but at 18 and 20, I definitely didn't. So I had a bunch of college majors. And then I got married, had kids, and I worked in hospice for a long time, for like 10 years in leadership, not as a nurse, but in leadership and fundraising. I think going to Catholic school, fundraising is just ingrained in you. You had to beg for every single piece of loose leaf paper you ever wrote on. So just learning how to ask for money and ask for help and do those kind of things is just part of my DNA, I think. And I worked in hospice for 10 years. During COVID, they eliminated kind of positions, roles, and there was an opportunity to do remote work. And that's when I found this organization out of LA that managed charities for celebrities, professional athletes, people of high net worth. And given most of my life and my background in nonprofit leadership, management, fundraising, marketing, all that kind of strategic planning, it was an easy win for them to get me. And that's where I met Corey, and here we are today. But it's something, you always want to be a lifelong learner, and there's always things changing and growing and wanting to know that. So where I may not be an expert in some of the content, I am an expert in how to manage that from a nonprofit perspective.
Well, me.
Do I pass the test on if I'm qualified to be on this podcast right now? Did I pass?
Yeah. You don't get invited unless you're already qualified. So, yeah.
Oh,
So you're good. Well, me, I was like creeping on your page and stuff, to try and come up with some other things to discuss about your journey. And I see that you got a master's at Elmira College, which, not to be confused with Elvira College, but what was that training like? And, when you got there, you already kind of knew what you wanted to do, obviously, and were focused. What was the focus of the master's?
So I actually went to SUNY Plattsburgh for college originally. I went there for my first 3 years, and right before my senior year, my grandmother had dementia. I mean, she didn't just get it that summer; she had it, but it became a matter of she needs 24-hour care. She has to go in a nursing home. So I took that last year of college off and lived with my parents so that my grandmother could live with us and wouldn't have to go to a home. So then I ended up finishing at Elmira. I've got a master's in adult education, human resource development, train the trainer. Elmira, not to be confused with Elvira, is actually like a big prison town in New York State. There was, until recently, there was 2 maximum security prisons. So my intention with my master's was that I was going to be an educator in the prison and teach maximum security prisoners, GED, life skills, that kind of stuff. And I was a young mom, married, little kids, and that probably wasn't going to work well for me. So, I think the universe puts us where we need to be. And I ended up getting the hospice gig. And 3 months after that, my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So, there's no coincidence. There was a reason I was there, just like there's a reason why I'm here. I don't know if I still know what that reason is yet. But, you stalked and you got some info, but I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't. Well, I trust in the universe that it's got my back, and I'm making good choices to get me where I need to be.
And kind of playing off of that, the universe leads you where you're supposed to be. You originally, like you said, you were going to plan on working in the maximum security prisons, with prisoners and inmates and stuff. And I actually met you at a prison at the Inkcarceration Music Festival. So, look at how the universe works. You still got to meet and work with be an adult educator or somebody like myself at a prison. That's right. And that was a pretty cool prison. It's not every day you get to hang out with where the Shawshank was filmed. So. Yeah, exactly. And then, what are some of your other before? You kind of briefly touched on them, but what were some of your other like fundraising and marketing experiences?
I've done capital campaigns, like multi-million-dollar campaigns to get like a hospice facility. I've done all kind of events. I invented this race, this 5K, we called it the Glow Run, a few years back in downtown Elmira, which is kind of ghetto. It was at night and it was glow in the dark, and people ran up and down the streets, but then they went up and down the parking garage and finished on the roof of a parking garage downtown, and had a kind of like fireworks and like black light tunnels. And people were like, "You're insane. You're going to try to do a 5K at 10 o'clock at night in downtown Elmira?" And I'm like, "Hey, look, if you're looking for crime and drugs and problems and potholes, you're going to find them. But if you're looking for positive, light, kind of fun things to do, you're going to find them too. Like you find what you're looking for." And that's a whole that perspective transformation, that positive things can happen in a bad area downtown. You know, people that maybe you think aren't able to do good things can. You find what you're looking for. If you're looking for somebody to be a jerk as they check you out at the store, they're going to be a jerk. But if you have grace and think that they're just having a rough day, then they're probably going to be a little easier to work with too. You know what I mean? It's
Oh yeah.
I just ramble. I do all kinds of things. What do you want me to do, Bill? I'll do it.
Well, let's talk about then, you know, like you said, you worked for that that agency in LA. And then how did you originally connect with the Taylor Foundation?
So, interesting story. So Corey Taylor manages the Taylor Foundation. His manager, Corey Brennan, had already had a charity project with this organization called Rock Against Racism, which was bringing, you know, people in all areas of music to stand together against racism. So I had worked with his manager for quite some time. And I guess Corey had talked to his manager saying he wanted to do this. So then he connected to us. Again, I wasn't a metalhead. They're like, Corey Taylor wants to come. And I'm like, who's Corey Taylor? Like, didn't even know who he was. So I certainly wasn't going to be fangirl because I didn't know who he was. I mean, obviously I'd heard of Slipknot, but I just didn't know. And so he came, we did a Zoom call, and it was really cool. He was on the tour bus. I was here in my house in New York, and I'm like, so what does this look like? You want to do things for PTSD? Like, tell me about your story and all this. And he's like, I just want to make a difference. And I was like, well, what does that look like? We're not going to open the Betty Ford Clinic for PTSD and slap your name on it. Like, that's dumb. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You know, how can we best leverage his celebrity status and make a difference that's really going to drive impact? And that's kind of what led the conversation as to what our mission is and how we operate and move in this world and grow. And I can surely tell you that, but I don't know if you're ready for that yet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll get into that. But what's I mean, and this was when did this start for you?
Corey came, we opened the Taylor Foundation in May of 2022. So it was 2 years in May.
Okay. And then was that Inkcarceration where we met at? I mean, because we've known each other for a little while now. That was like very early in the.
That was last summer, right? 2023, last July.
Was it last year? I thought it was. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Knowing you, Mary, it just seems like a lifetime, baby.
You know, I mean, that's what those connections and bonds are all about, right? I mean, that's the power here. That's the power. But you leave quite an impression that lasts a lifetime. What can I say?
I'm glad I'm still able to do that sober, and hopefully it's a positive one now. You know,
it is. It is.
But so you know, what's since your time working with him, what's it been like? You know, getting to know and work with Corey and his wife Alicia on this project.
I have to say, and I say it every time, Corey is by far one of the most down-to-earth, generous, genuine, authentic humans I've ever met. He is so easy to work with. You know, I've worked in a space with other celebrities, athletes. You know, I think there's a lot of people that have fame and they want to look good doing good. You know, oh, look, I just cooked for 800 people. Take my picture. And then they walk out the door and they never talk to any of those people. Where Corey is the exact opposite of that. He will message me and say, I feel like I need to do something. What can I do? Tell me what to do. Like, he calls me boss. Like, what do I need to do, boss? And I'm like, I think you're the boss. And he's like, no, really. He is open to doing, I think he's told me no once on something. And I think that was something that would be outside of anybody's comfort zone. So I wasn't surprised, but he's just incredible. I mean, he's responsive. I don't have to go through anybody. I can text him right now and he will answer me within 5 minutes. Like, I've never had to wait on a response. He's very responsive. He's open to new ideas. He wants to grow. He wants to make a difference. he's good with feedback, like, hey, I think we need to do this a little different. I think we've missed an opportunity here, and he wants to be at that decision-making table and talk about things, but he always wants to do what's best for the organizations that we partner with and what's best for the veterans and things like that. He's just incredible. And Alicia is, I've seen her several times throughout. She's always supportive. What can she do? How can she help support him? I think it's incredible. Corey turned 50 last December, and I think you get to that point where it's like, does my life has meaning, but how can I give more meaning to my life and give back? And he's been so blessed. And this, I think this means more to him. I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I think it's one of the things he's most proud of, is knowing that he's making that personal difference. But he's super easy to work with. I basically have free reign within reason. And we have a great working relationship. Anytime we need something, he's responsive. He's generous. I could tell you so many stories of things where he's gone above and beyond. We did a grant program last year where it's kind of multi-purpose, where we wanted to give money out to organizations that are doing really good things, but we also wanted to have collateral that we could then promote on behalf of these organizations. So we put this call out that we were going to give away $20,000 in grants, and organizations needed to make like a 2 to 3 minute video kind of pitching your organization, who are you, call to action if people are in need. And then Corey would pick the winner, and then we'd be able to use those snippets like in our social media posts on our website and things like that. So we got down to we had a couple hundred organizations apply. I got it down to the top 20, top 10. And he was I want to say he was in Germany or Japan. He was overseas. And so I sent him the top 10. I'm like, you need to pick the winner. And I knew it. An hour goes by, I get a call. I can't pick one. I know. What are we going to do about that? And he's like, they're all just so good. And I'm like, well, we budgeted 20 grand. So either you give more people less, or what does that look like? And he's like, I want to give them all something. And within an hour, there was an additional $25,000 wired into his bank account so that we could give all 10 organizations funds. He walks the walk, he walks his talk. For sure. And he does go above and beyond because he really wants to make a difference.
That's awesome. And then what for the audience, explain what exactly the Taylor Foundation is and what it does then.
Yeah, I feel like when I started going, I'm like, we probably should have done that first. So the Taylor Foundation is named after Corey Taylor's grandparents, Claire Taylor and his wife, his grandmother. So Corey didn't have the most stable youth growing up, moved a lot. His mom wasn't necessarily the greatest role model. So the only person who really gave him stability in his life was his grandma. And his grandfather was in the Korean War, came back, had all kinds of post-traumatic stress, alcoholism, ended up being homeless, lived in a lot of people's basements. Corey didn't really know him or realize he was his grandfather until he was pretty much dying, basically. And at that point, he had gotten sober, but the damage was already done. And so he looks, back then, Korean War, people didn't get divorced, women weren't working, couldn't even have a credit card. So to watch his grandmother sacrifice so much, and what she went through, and then subsequently what his mother went through, and his whole family dynamic, how could that have been different if somebody would have said, this is post-traumatic stress. It's okay to feel this way. This is what you can do for help. It's okay not to be okay. How could that whole family dynamic have been different? And then I think throughout the years, not that I think I know, so many veterans, first responders have come to him and said, your music saved my life. And he's like, whoa, hold up. You being a fan has saved my life. And they're like, no. And they go back and forth, who saved whose life. So he just thought this could be a great opportunity to give back. So what we came up with when we had that conversation of what does this look like is, how do we best leverage his celebrity to drive impact? So, the VA is the VA, Wounded Warrior. You got some great giant machines out there that are helping a lot of people, but a lot of people are falling through the cracks or are not getting the help. Or there's great big CEOs making 6 figures and people still aren't getting help. And that's a problem. Mm-hmm. So what we came up with is when Corey's on tour or making appearances or whatever his schedule looks like, we pick certain cities. We try to do as many as we possibly can as schedules allow. And then we try to find a local grassroots organization, boots on the ground, that's doing really impactful work in that space. So I'll research like Cleveland, Ohio, PTSD nonprofits, blah, blah, blah. I'll research them. I'll pull up their 990, make sure they're fiscally, they're in good financial health, kind of check how many social media followers, is this somebody that we want to associate with? Then we do like a meeting, kind of talk through things. And then day of show, Corey will go hang out with them for like an hour. He's taught guitar lessons. He's done meditations. He's done painting classes with them. He just hangs out and talks. He's sat on stage, like whatever they want him to do, he'll do. Play with service animals. He spends like an hour with them, and then that organization will get tickets to the show. They get put on our website. What we're ultimately trying to do is really let the VA be the VA, but we're building a bigger machine. We want to build a bigger machine of people that there's no red tape, and that people are actually getting the help they need. So we want to be like this universal connector of networks. So, Corey's visited, I want to say he's done at least 15 just this fall visits. He did like 10 visits in 7 days in September, October, where we're trying to really find as many grassroots organizations, local, regional, maybe, that are doing these great things, and then elevate them. Hey, Cleveland, this is your local resource. This is who we think you should reach out to. These are people that we support, and have this like on our website. You can go to our website, www.wearettf.org, click on your state, and then all the organizations that we've found so far will be listed there. We just really want people to know it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to ask for help. You're not alone in this struggle. And I know people like you and just different people we've met in the last few years, I know we're making a difference. I know we've kept people alive because they tell me, there are people that were ready to hang up and decided to wake up the next day because they had conversations with us. I know this. But really, we just want to leverage Corey to help leverage really good organizations that are doing great things, like the Save 22s, like Ultimate Veteran Adventures and Puppy Jake Foundation. Like there's so many great organizations out there. And if Corey's name can help amplify who they are in their own community, that's a win. So that's kind of what we're all about. It's veterans, first responders, their families, because I think a lot of times people forget that there's a family, there's a wife over here that's, I don't know what to do. And my husband is hiding in the closet screaming, like, what do I do? Who's here? Who do I get to talk to? And I think that family piece is really important too.
Yeah, definitely. It's like they serve along with us, and it's like, I remember coming home from my deployment and just, the whole dynamic of my children, it's like my oldest daughter, Bianca, who you've met, kind of stepped up as the parent to her little sister because I was not here, and then when I came home and thankfully I got sober and started turning my life around, I was like, hey, you can be a kid again, it was, it was just, but then I'm dealing with my own demons and having to feel everything. Thankfully I got sober, but it's like, then you have to feel all these feelings, and reached out to, the VA is the VA, like you said, but, I've worked through quite a few great veteran organizations that were there to help me along my journey and healing and stuff. And, grateful for their role in part of my healing. And this, I started doing this podcast. This is part of my therapy. I get on here, I had such bad social anxiety, like, going to festivals sober with all those people, man, that was tough at first, and then but doing this podcast and learning how to just be human and talk to people and hear other people's stories and realize I'm not alone and share that there are these options out there for other people. And in this journey has been awesome. What has been your, experience getting, yourself at these festivals, setting up, and you get to meet and hear all these stories? What's that been like for you?
it's been life-changing, honestly. I mean, I think the logistics of getting into a booth and getting set up and working this music festival with 200 some thousand people is a feat in and of itself, right? And we're blessed, like, to have a great relationship with Danny Wimmer Presents. They have been beyond supportive, considering the first time I reached out to them for Louder Than Life was like 6 weeks before gates opened, and I'm like, yeah, I'm with the Taylor Foundation and we want to be there. And they're like, this is in 6 weeks. I'm like, yeah, I know, we want to be there. So I think that's a big, it's a big lift. It's a heavy lift, but we've got great partners and great teams to do it. I think something that for me, and every time we go to a music festival, I feel it stronger, is it's just such great connection and relationship building, and how important it is that we're there, that we've done 7 music festivals in 2 years. And when I have people, like when I just saw you this last couple months ago, there was at least 3 VIP ticket holders, people who paid over $3,000 out of their own pocket to get the best of this festival. And they spend 8 hours or more at our booth. They spend more time at our booth hanging out, wanting to talk to veterans than to see any of those bands.
Wow.
That blows my mind. Like they're paying this kind of money to come sit with us because they feel more comfortable with us. When you go to a festival the second year in a row and gates open, and there's 5 stages, there's all kind of food vendors and not crafts, but, like all of the stuff to see. In 10 minutes after gates open, I've got a line out the door. People, they clearly looked for us first. That, I can't wrap my brain around that. And you can't put a price tag on that. People say, well, how much money did you raise? And we could sit there and do merch all day long, and we're going to have some merch, but it's not about that's transactional. We've got people coming in here that are telling us I watched my husband blow his head off. I was in a helicopter accident and my so-and-so died right in front of me, and I'm laying there hanging out from this thing, and I can't talk to my wife, and I can't talk to my boss, and I can't talk to anybody. I have met you for 30 seconds and I'm just going to spill all of this onto you. Is the fact that we're able to provide that kind of a safe space where people feel comfortable. And you've been there. Those aren't 30-second conversations. Those are 30-minute, 45-minute conversations, where it is the most raw, vulnerable. They're crying, but then they come back the next day and they're like, I'm so glad I got this off my chest. I can't put a price tag on that. There was a guy in, if I had ever seen somebody come to our booth that I thought was going to blow their head off, it was this guy at Rockville last summer. So drunk, couldn't even speak, just tears just kept pouring down his cheeks. I heard him say Army, but I couldn't understand anything else he said. And I just kept hugging him. Like, that's all I could do because he can't communicate. But you could tell there was something really heavy on him. And then this May, we're in Daytona, Rockville, and this guy comes walking up. You can always tell when someone's like, they're coming in and they got something to say, like they're all like, I'm coming for you. And I'm like, oh shit, what's he gonna, who is this guy? He's like, you're always here. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I do, And he's like, I was here last year. You probably don't remember me. I was such a dumpster fire. And when he said that, I was like, oh, I do remember you. He's like, I've been thinking about you all year. I got sober. I got this service dog named Marge who he had with him. And I'm going back to school and I want to help vets. Like, you guys inspired me to do this. And I was so hoping you would be here because I wanted to share with you that, I got clean and all this and that. And I could tell you 20 of those people. And those, like people like you, the fact that you and I are buddies because I give the best high fives ever and you like them.
Yeah, and your hugs are amazing too.
They are.
Look what it's done for that guy.
Yeah. But I mean, those kind of things, those wins are just in their relationships, like so many people like you and we are friends on social media, or they're texting me, or there's people that are in trauma and they're just like, I just needed to reach out to you today. Just like on a personal level. Like that's what it's all about, I think, is building that connection and knowing you're not, somebody does have your six. You're not all by yourself. And I'm not a veteran. I mean, I come from on both sides, like every war and the war conflict, whatever you want to call them, throughout our whole existence. Somebody in my family has been in one, but I'm not, I'm not. But I'm a human. And I think at the end of the day, we all connect on that humanity and that, do you have a heart or not?
Yeah.
Are you willing to listen to me or not?
Yeah, just you sharing that gentleman's story is like my eyes started leaking a little bit here, because it's like, I can relate. I know, where I was and where I'm at today, and how organizations like the Taylor Foundation and the other organizations that I've been able to get involved with have helped change my life. And it's like man, just like I said, connecting with you at the festival the first time, it's like, of course, I'm a fan of Slipknot. I'm a fan of Corey's work, and then I saw the name and I was like, okay, what do you guys do? And I come up and got the high five and the hug, and I'm checking it out, and I was just like, wow, this is awesome. How has like what you set up at the like the tents evolved since you started?
Yeah, well, great question. So first festival we did, again, we had 6 weeks. So that was like a cheesy, hokey photo contest kind of thing. It was not great, but it worked. It worked, and we had repeat people come back, so it couldn't have been that bad, but it was fun. And then we came up with this idea. I wanted something really interactive in ways that people could participate without feeling super pressured or making it feel like you're at a therapist or at school kind of thing. And so I came up with this thing. It's a PTSD storyboard, and I'm really it's moving, so I'm excited. Where it's like an 8 foot long plexiglass board, 6 feet tall, that's got 72 carriage bolts on it, and every carriage bolt has a word. So it's a way for people to tell their PTSD story or experience and see that they're threaded together with other people, that they're not alone in their suffering, they're not alone in what they experience. But at the end of the day, it's also a research project for us. So it's designed so it'll look like an American flag at the end of the weekend. So up in the top corner, where the stars are, it's kind of like, how do you identify? Who are you? Whether it's like Army, Navy, Marine, first responder, retired, disabled, sexually assaulted, like how do you identify as a person? And so you take a blue string and you do that. And then you take a red string and you highlight all the things that are triggers to you, whether it's smoke, crowds, family, loud noises, like whatever your triggers are, identify those. And then we always want to end on a positive note. So we take white string and you circle all the things that help you feel better, what helps you heal, whether it's service animal, music, family, because family could be all three of them, and what makes you feel better. And then that way people can see that they're not alone in their journey. But for us, at the end of the festivals, the ones that have the most white string, that help the most people, those are going to be the kinds of organizations we're going to look to partner with moving forward from that nonprofit partnership perspective. So nature gets a lot. Music always gets a lot because we're at a music festival, of course, right? Travel, exercise, whatever, service animal, like whatever it is, the ones that get the most are going to be the ones that we're going to want to focus on because it's creating the greatest impact. But what we're working on right now is I would love to, and it's really thousands of people have done this board. I know because I'm actually looking at one right now. It's in front of my desk.
I was going to ask about that because I remember my experience doing that board.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a good way for your mind to connect the dots too, and then to focus on, okay, this is what to do, what to bring more into your life for your healing, okay, yeah, I feel good about this, I feel good about that, right. So that's why I'm glad you brought it up. But yeah, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, don't be sorry. I mean, and it is, and I think it's great for people to see that you're not alone, because I think when you're in that depths of despair, you feel like you're the only person that's living this way, but you're not, because within 10 minutes there isn't a single bolt that doesn't have a string on it. So somebody in this, even in this little music festival, has experienced what you've experienced, which I think is cool. But what we want to do is take it to that next level. And so we've got some research and development going right now where we can take this activity and we want to bring it online, whether it's an app or whether it's something that's on our website where people can come and instead of and or in addition to saying, here's my state, what resources do I have, where they could tangibly do that exercise on their phone. This is who I am. This is what triggers me. This is what helps me heal. And then having on the back end, having that extrapolate that information, that demographic, where they are, who they are, what they've experienced, and say, hey, here's a list of resources that we specifically think are going to be good for you, that you, according to your interests, these are things that we think you should check out. So there's definitely going to need to be a lot of research, and crossing T's and dotting I's to make that happen. But that is a huge goal for us because I feel like as much as we're reaching tons of people at the music festivals, there's millions of people all around the world that either can't afford to, don't want to, it's not their jam, that would never get to participate if it was only at a festival. So how can we make this more accessible and be more of a resource moving forward? So that's definitely on the plan for 2025, which I'm super excited about.
And then what was, you shared some, but like your experience just like meeting so many, veterans and first responders over the years. Like you said, you became, you become friends with so many of them. You've helped me get people to share their story on my podcast. What's that been like for you?
It's been very humbling. I am so grateful, not only for your service and the men and women that stand beside you and serve and chose to, you guys signed a blank check that I didn't, and so I have nothing but pride and admiration for the sacrifices that you've all given and made. I think it's also built some frustration in me with our government that there needs to be better, from what I'm hearing, there needs to be so much more better reintegration into society. You're trained to be this, but I'm hearing that there really isn't much welcome home. This is what life looks like now. And I think if there was more effort and investment in that and really caring about what happens to you once you walk off that battlefield, maybe we wouldn't have the statistics that we have right now. Maybe we wouldn't have the trauma and the depression and the issues that we have. Like, stop with the Band-Aids, stop with the pills, and fix the problem. And
yeah. So
it's really wanted me to become more of an advocate on behalf and stand up to that in any way that I can. It's just been so humbling. I mean, my ex-husband was a Marine, so and again, a lot of my family has been, but I haven't personally done that. But it's humbling. I'm grateful that people are willing to share their stories with me, even though I'm not, a fellow veteran. But they can see that I care and that we care. But just some of the stories, man, there's some strong people out there who unfortunately think they're weak. And they're not, and it's okay not to be okay. I'm just humbled. I'm grateful for every story, for every opportunity. I go to those festivals and it's like a 14-hour day and it doesn't bother me at all. I'm not like, time for break. It's like, no, I'm waiting for you to bring me island noodles. Like, I'm not leaving this booth to go eat and party and do stuff, because I need to be here because people have things to say, and they need hugs or whatever they need. It's just been, it's an honor. It's a true honor. And I'm always open for feedback. And, if there's ways that I can show up better, I want to know that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I look back at my journey coming home and that transition, and I said being away from my kids and I went through a separation with their mother. It's just like all the things that a lot of veterans deal with, because it's just like what I always wished we had was, some sort of education for our families to prepare them that, hey, dad that left might not be dad that comes back. He's still dad, but it's a different, there's just so much that I didn't handle the right way. I regret, but I'm grateful for the journey and the people that helped me along the way. It's like, there's an organization here in Cleveland, Wags for Warriors, that got me my dog, and that was a good, huge start. They connected me with this. You talk about nature being huge, man. There's this group out in Sun Valley, Idaho, Higher Ground. I got to do like horseback riding in the Sawtooth Mountains and fly fishing and like drink out of a spring out there. It was beautiful. And it was so healing, just to be away, disconnected from all this, and just out there in nature and grounded and connected, and then, done groups like the Lone Survivor Foundation where, get around with other veterans and actually just talk and be transparent and share what you're struggling with and ways that, you can heal and support. And then like We Defy Foundation, I found this one because I got into jujitsu, and they actually help veterans, pay for their first year of jujitsu and stuff, just like you're out of your head. I mean, at first jujitsu was, it's still tough for me because I'm old and out of shape, but, but it was just like, I can imagine like getting out there and just like the only thing, all the problems that you're carrying with you when you get on that mat, you're not thinking about that. You're trying to avoid being choked or whatever, so it's just like you're focused in the moment, and, there's so many of those organizations that have helped me along the way. So I'm glad but I didn't know about a lot of them until I went to one that taught me about the other one, told me about the other one, and I'm glad that you guys are able to like put all these together to say, hey, check this out, check this one out.
Right. Because it's not just like everybody learns differently, everybody heals differently. Right. And what if the only answer was you have to go see a therapist? How many people would be in therapy? I think a lot of people should be in therapy, but who would think like, I can do equestrian, I can do stuff with horses, or maybe it's a painting class or meditation. There's just so many out of the box things that will help that aren't necessarily traditional therapy. And like you say, unless somebody tells you, word of mouth is your greatest advertiser. I can see 25 commercials about today's boondoggle, and I'll be like, whoa, that's cool. But until Bill Bailey calls me and says, come on boondoggle, then I'm like, oh, I'm all about today's boondoggle. I need that personal invitation, that personal extension to feel welcome, and that's important too.
Yeah. And like, it's like I've become friends with the guys from Save 22, through you guys and through some local friends here. I've had many of them on to share their stories. Had I think it was Joe from Ultimate Veteran Adventures who you introduced me to at Inkcarceration. It's there's so many that are right here in my backyard that I didn't realize were here. And it's good to have an organization like yours to bring awareness. For veterans, what we have available. And that's what I try and do on the podcast by having them on as well. Even if a veteran's not involved with any kind of organization, I like to bring them on to share their story, and then I can share with them maybe, hey, check these places out. Or, we just have a talk and we just feel better afterwards of getting all our stuff out there. We get to heal, and then somebody listens that's going through the same thing, and they're like, wow, I didn't even look at it like that. That's, even when I have like the musicians on and I have the athletes and the entertainers and stuff, I always try and get into, we could go through the little bullet points of, their tour and their album and blah, 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 all the stuff that need to get out there. But I like the fans to know the person behind the curtain, like, hey man, I've struggled with this and I got through this. And that fan can hear that, that's going through that right now, and be like, wow, you know, I can get through this too. And this person that I, you know, put on a pedestal is a human being too, you know?
Right. Right.
And then, you know, like I said, I'm always looking for other veterans to get on here to share their stories, other people involved with organizations to get on. You've been a huge help with that. But I want to get back to, you know, Mary the not metalhead. And, you know, obviously through Corey, now you're associated with Slipknot. What's that experience been like? Especially your recent trip going to Mexico with a bunch of crazy masked men.
Yeah, that was interesting. It's been great. It's been great. Slipknot has grown on me. Now I will say I'm a fan. It's been really cool. Like Corey's team is phenomenal to work with, whether it's his managers, his security, you know, the rest of his bandmates. I had actually never met anybody else in the band. I mean, I had met Corey and his wife and things like that, but I had never met the rest of the band until I was in Mexico City. We just did a big flyaway contest where a fan got to go. Mexico City is Corey's favorite, one of his favorite cities in the entire world. So he coordinated this whole day of going to see all of his favorite sites, you know, the pyramids, underground caves, and Chapultepec Castle, and his favorite taco stops. And so we planned this whole day where we got to kind of walk around, not with Corey, but Corey planned where we were going with his personal tour guides of like sightseeing, all that kind of stuff. And then we got to meet the band backstage, watch the show from the side of the stage and then front of house, which was awesome. But what was really cool, like they do, you know, and you've been backstage. So here's like this section where everybody's meeting the band. But for us at the foundation, we had this like whole space like curated off. We had couches and stuff. And we're walking through with like the facility manager before they came, and all of a sudden Tortilla Man just like hops out from behind these buses. He's like, "What's up, dudes? I'm coming to see you. I can't wait to see you." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" You know, but it wasn't time for them to come yet. But he wanted to do like a little sneak jump out just to say hi. And you know, Eloy was incredibly humble and kind. You know, so him and Jim and Clown, and I mean there was a bunch of them. You know, they all came and they were intently listening to the winner. The winner had made her own jumpsuit by hand, and so they were asking her questions about that, but they like really cared about her answer. You know, it wasn't just, "Oh, great to meet you, see you later, bye." Like they made time, they spent time, and then they went over and did the like quick little high fives with all the other meet and greets. Like we were treated very special, with care, and that was awesome. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's when you get put on the side of the stage for a show, or you know you're going to be in front of house, you definitely better practice the songs and know them, because you don't want to be in the front row like, "I don't know this song." So they've grown on me for sure, and I can definitely say I'm a fan now. But I'm grateful that I really wasn't in the beginning, because I think it helped me be more authentic and open, and just, I'm here to do a job. Like you've chosen me to manage your charity, which is what I know. You know what I mean? So I don't need to sit over here and talk all the fan stuff and, "Oh my God," because it just wasn't there. Which I think has helped us be more authentic and keep it focused on what we need to focus on.
Yeah, I agree. That's great. And then, yeah, just that, I mean, that, you know, I that's what I love about the metal community. I've been a metalhead for a number of years, and I tried raising my girls in the metal world, but their mom had more of an influence with the pop music. But you see all these things that go down at certain shows, and like you said, it's just like the artists don't have that like connection with their fans or seem to care. It's like a quick like photo op and that's it, man. But with the metal community, it's just like there's a love, and it's like, hey, if somebody gets knocked down, we pick them up. You know, right. Everybody has each other's backs, and that's what I've always loved about that. And like I said, I had the pleasure, getting to know Corey over the years too, and just what a great guy. And I love the fact that that he cares so much, what he's doing for the veteran community. And also, like we were talking earlier, the first responder community. I've learned so much being in this relationship that I'm in about what they experience on a daily basis, and what they have to try and carry and into the next one. It's like, I got deployed, I got to go home and try and heal. She gets a call and it's like every other day. When do you get the downtime to process and heal? So I'm glad that this organization is finding those kind of places for her as well.
Absolutely. And I'll say, like when you say the metal community and the family, and I'll say that, I think that's one of the things I love the most are the fans and the people like, oh, they're all the metalhead, but they're the kindest people. I do feel like family. And I'll tell you, Ink is one of my favorite ones. I loved the vibe there. It's in my top 2 for sure, because just the way it felt like family. So we, you remember, and I'm sure people don't because they weren't there, but where we were located, the main stage was right behind us, and Lamb of God was getting ready to come on, but nobody knew because they're in our booth. And all of a sudden the pyrotechnics go off and it sounds like guns. And I had 8 people hit the ground, fetal position. I've never witnessed anything like that in my life. And I'm like, oh my God, what do we do? But they all got up together and they were like, I'm so glad this happened right here. I'm glad we were in this booth when that happened and we have each other. And I think, the people that, like I said, the VIP ticket holders that come and hang out with us longer than they watch shows, we're building these families, there are people that they can't wait to come to the next festival to see their friends that they met at this one. And it's all like, we're all this like little group of ambassadors that just want to help, but feel like we're our own little family, which is, that's awesome, and you have to sit with it. If you want to heal, you have to sit with it. You have to sit with it with a clear head. You have to feel. And I know that's scary, but that's the only way out is through. It is. You ride that wave, and the nature of the waves to pass. It is, but you got to ride it.
Yep. Now let's talk about something else that we share in common. You just touched on, with feeling our feelings with a clear head now. Both of us are sober people. You mind sharing a little bit about your journey?
Sure. So, I'm super pumped. And I think that's part of the reason why I initially liked you, Bill, is that you had that sobriety and you had it much longer than I did when we met. I'll hit 2 years alcohol-free December 30th.
Awesome.
I don't think...
that's a rough time to get sober, too. Hats off.
It was.
Day before New Year's Eve, come on.
I had been, I think alcohol had just always been part of my adult life. I loved happy hours, I loved a good bottle of wine. I was newly single, and I was seeing myself just getting into these habits. And I thought, let's dry January. Everybody talks about dry January. Oh, I'm sober curious. What's this all about? Like, let's just do it for a month and just understand my relationship with alcohol. Like, why do I want it? When do I want it? How much am I drinking? How do I feel? Like, let's just look at it for a month. And my goal was, if at the end of the month I only drink on the weekends or I don't drink at home anymore, I'm good with that. But then by the end of the month, I felt so good. I'm like, let's try 2 months. And to this day, I haven't said I'm never drinking again, because I said that enough in my 20s, and we all know where that gets you, right? Just hugging the toilet bowl. So I've never said I'm never going to do it again, but it does not serve me. It doesn't serve me. I've done so much more growth and healing personally, achieved more professionally. Just my whole world opened up when I kicked that to the curb. It was the greatest decision I've ever made by far. It feels great. And, and Corey's sober as well. He's got many years under his belt, but part of it to me was, if I'm the front, we're a very small organization. It's Corey, myself, and we have a contracted social media person. We don't have a staff of 50 people. But if I'm standing here doing a good chunk of this work in the name of this organization, and I know that that's an important value to Corey, I should live that, right? Who am I to, I don't want to be a hypocrite and, don't do this, or maybe you shouldn't be doing that. Not that I tell people what to do, but, I should live the values that we emulate. So that's always helped reinforce it for me as well. You know what I mean? It should be part of who you are authentically all the way around.
And how supportive has that been now, partnering, working side by side with Corey and his sobriety as well?
It's been great. I mean, he's supportive of anybody getting sober, as and, I think it means a lot to him that I've also kind of committed to that. I think it does mean a lot to him. And it's great to know that I can message somebody at 8 a.m. and they're not going to yell at me because they have a hangover. I know you don't have a hangover. You better get answering me now, buddy. Exactly. And that we're leading by example and living authentically to be our best selves. Because how could we ask somebody else to be their best self if we're not? Nobody likes a hypocrite.
Now, since your time with the Taylor Foundation, you've shared a lot of amazing, powerful stories. So it's probably going to be hard to kind of wind down one. But what would you say are some of your proudest moments?
The story that I think is always going to stick with me the most is the story of Frank, just because I think he emulates so much. So first festival we were at was Louder Than Life 2022, September. And we met a bunch of guys and, veterans and whatnot. And this guy's name was Frank, and he had done, and I might get it backwards, and if I do, I apologize. So let's say he was in the Navy, came out of the Navy, 9/11 hit. On September 12th, he went and signed up for the Army and says, I'm going back. Like, my country's not done with me. So he went back, did a tour, saw 12 kids get blown up in front of him. Can't imagine how that messes with your psyche, right? Didn't drink a lot, smoked a ton of dope. He was cool as shit. Like, I liked him. We had a good talk, but you could tell he shared a lot of his trauma. So certain number of people got to go meet Corey backstage. So I chose him. I'm like, I think you should go meet him. And he did, and then life went on, right? Like, September was over, I'm going home, life's good. So that April, so that's what's that, like 6-7 months later, I get this random message on Facebook Messenger from this woman, Amanda. And she's like, you probably don't remember me. I hope you remember this story, but you met my husband, and you got to meet Corey. And I'm kind of like, Then she sends a picture, and I'm like, yes, I know exactly who that is. Like, I wouldn't have remembered his name, but I remembered his face. And she says, I want you and Corey to know that he hung himself 5 days ago. And you're seeking me out to tell us, right? Like, that says a lot to begin with, right? But then she says he had bought 6 tickets to Inkcarceration. And I'm not going without him. There's no way. Sorry, that was my dryer. There's no way I can go without him. Could we donate those to the Taylor Foundation? And can you get them into the hands of veterans? Because that would be great if they could go in his memory. And in my mind, I'm like, why is this on your mind right now? Like, this shouldn't be what you're thinking about. But of course, we can help you do that. So the tickets had been on layaway. She still owed a little bit of money. Nothing like huge, but she still owed. Was like, I'm happy to donate them, but I really don't want to pay them off, which I get, right? So I messaged Corey. Oh my gosh, do you remember this guy? This is what happened. I sent him the picture. Literally a minute and a half goes by. He said, send me the information. I'm paying for it in full. And didn't even blink an eye, didn't ask for like proof, like none of that. Was like, I want to help this person. So we ended up getting the tickets. We did get them into the hands of veterans that were able to go. And Amanda, the wife, and I, we've kept in touch. And, I sent his stepdaughter, a note kind of from Corey and I, and just, we've stayed in touch. And I said, can I put Frank's picture on one of our banners? Because I would love to share his story with anybody that walks in that booth, because I don't want any more Franks. And I'm sure you've heard me tell it, because I do it all day long. I'm like, I get to see somebody over here. And I tell his story, and I share that. And I know friends of his have come here from Oklahoma, and they're like, where's Frank? Oh, I want to get my picture taken with Frank. Like in Rockavet, which is a group out of Oklahoma, they sent stickers to us to then put out at the show, and they promote it. And so I was at Louder Than Life this year, and I'm having like a very deep conversation with this woman who had a suicidal daughter. It was a very deep conversation. And then there's this lady that just shows up, and she just stand there like waiting her turn. And I'm kind of annoyed. Like I'm in a deep thing. Like I'm not just going to disrespect this person and look. But I turned, and she says, "You're Mary." I said, "Yep." She says, "Amanda sent me with this for you." And she gave me two kind of handmade bracelets. One that said "sober as fuck" and one that said "I'm with Frank." And they were from his widow. She wasn't coming to the festival, but her friend was. So she made a point to make something for me to give to me from him. It was just, it touched me. Like maybe this sounds like self-serving, and I don't mean it that way, but it just touched my heart to see how these things go full circle. And I made a promise to her, I'm not going to forget Frank, and I won't stop telling his story. And I haven't. And I think, I don't want to say he's a loss, like we lost one, because I'm not going to say that. I think in some way he's turned our light on, right? Instead of putting a light out, our light's on because of his experience, because unfortunately I can put a face to a name, to a statistic that shouldn't be a statistic, but because we've been able to interact full circle, helps bring it home to me versus, we all know people that have taken their lives. I know several veterans, whether it's associated with Taylor Foundation or not. I think his story of meeting him where he was at, seeing what happened, and then watching him live on through others, and his story, I know, has saved others. To me, that's probably one of the most meaningful things to come out of this. It's not Corey motherfucking Taylor, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
No offense, but it shouldn't be. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be about Corey. It's about people like you that need help. And I'll stand on that all day long. You know what I mean? It's great that, we wouldn't be here without Corey. And he's obviously, this is his baby, and we need him because his name is the leverage to get the bigger message out. But the bigger message is what's most important.
Yeah, and it's amazing that he's using that to give back, because so many in that position could just be taking, and he's given, and that's and wow, Frank's story, it's just like I've heard so many of them, but yeah, that just I knew you'd get me to cry before this episode was over, but
and that's okay.
Yeah, but before we get ready and wrap up, I want to ask you a couple of the questions that I normally ask guests that are on here.
Okay.
And I'm excited to kind of hear this answer because of your human heart. But what class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
I don't think they teach common sense. Customer service would be great. You know what drives me crazy now is these young kids, and I'm like, "Hi, how are you?" at Dunkin', and they're like, they just look at you, and I'm like, "How are you?" Like, answer me. Just say your day sucks. I don't care. Just say something. Financial management, probably. I don't think it's going to be calculus or even PE at this point. I think we need some more common sense and empathy would be a great class. Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? Conflict resolution. Yeah.
Like,
just be a good human.
Financial management's usually the number one, but I had a feeling we would take that route too, because that is so important. Empathy and just being, trying to be a better person, man. Because even at 51, man, I still struggle with that, and I'm a work in progress. But yeah. And then who are three people? Yeah. And then who are three people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
Wow. Definitely my father, rest his soul. He was an insurance salesman that had quite the power of BS and could connect with anybody and preferred to connect with people that most people wouldn't want to connect with. So I definitely think that has played an influence on me. Probably the teacher that told me not to join the Peace Corps. I mean, gosh, Catholic, particularly in a Catholic school environment, right? Like where you're trained to like be of service and be a martyr, but not if you're not getting paid. Like that's just so wrong. But it just kind of, don't tell me I can't do something because that's like a challenge. Game on. Now I'm definitely going to do it. So Miss Brown, wherever you are, you're probably dead. I didn't join the Peace Corps, but I'm on my way. Third, I'm going to be selfish and say myself. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, we're only accountable to ourselves, and we hold the power to be anything we want to be. It's all up to us. It doesn't matter who did what to you or what you did before. It's you have the power and to control your mindset to be who you want to be. And all growth is because of yourself. So I got to give credit where credit's due, right? I mean, I wouldn't be here if I didn't put the work in.
Yeah, exactly. And I needed to hear that.
And I'm not stuck up. So please don't think that I'm like.
No, not at all. That is just like 100%, like I just, with life events, man, I needed that reminder. It's just like, man, we got to take personal accountability. We're responsible for, no matter what hands we're dealt, how we react to them, and that's the work that we continue to do. What are we going to make of it?
That's where the power is. Yeah. It's how you react.
And then any message you have, or wait, I don't want to skip over this one. I always like asking this one. What was your favorite toy as a child?
I was quite a fan of my big wheel. Vroom, vroom, vroom. I wasn't allowed to play with Barbies or anything. My mom was very go girl power. You don't need to look like a Barbie, which I never had, like dolls and stuff. I was definitely much of a tomboy. So I would say like the big wheel, or, I can still hear, feel, smell, and taste the dodgeball pinging off my face from like 1984. But I don't know.
Nice.
What was yours?
What was mine? I look probably my Star Wars figures. I was a big Star Wars guy, and when I look back at, when I go to like toy places today and see how much a lot of those were worth if they were taken care of, I want to slap myself because it's just like burying them in the sandbox and like getting the magnifying glass out and melting them or whatever, for the real intense play moments. Probably wasn't the greatest ideas.
Well, toys are meant to be played with. What fun would they be if you had to keep them in a box?
Yeah, exactly. And then any message you have for our military members that are currently serving overseas?
I think just on behalf of the Taylor Foundation, we just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all the sacrifices that you've made and continue to make, not only you, but your family, for our country. And the Taylor Foundation exists to support you just as much as veterans. And, if you're not following us on social media, or check out our website, and if there's ways you want to get involved or be part of this mission, or there's feedback on ways we can support you, we'd love to hear that. And please stay safe. And it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to ask for help. And you're trained to be a machine, but you're a human, and don't forget that.
Yeah. And then speaking of, then, for anybody out there that's listening that might not be familiar with the Taylor Foundation and want to learn more and support, where would you send them?
You can go to our website, which is wearettf.org. We are the Taylor Foundation, but it's wearettf.org. We're also on Facebook, Instagram. We're on TikTok. I don't think we got a whole lot of ticket and talking going on, but definitely on Facebook and Instagram, you can find us, and at most of the major metal music festivals. I think we're going to be at a lot more this year in 2025.
Nice. And then, Mary, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Always.
For sharing the story, and glad to get it out. I'm pretty sure Corey's going to listen. So, Corey, you're next. Hit me up, buddy. Let's get you on the Boondoggle.
Yes, he's next. Yeah, and again, we've got your spotlight of the week, so I know we're excited to kind of roll that out so we can highlight today's Boondoggle and help hopefully inspire some more veterans and active duty individuals to come on and share their story. The more stories that are told, the more people that can be helped. And you never know, you might think your story isn't anything special, but it could be all one person needs to hear. So we're proud to support Bill in today's Boondoggle.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. Oh, boy, I need that hug right now. Let's do a virtual one.
Oh!
Thank you so much, Mary. I appreciate your time. And, we'll, I'm sure we'll be in touch through the holidays.
We better be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we will be.
All right. I appreciate it so much. Stay safe.